Well, folks, we are back for another rousing game of Conquest. This one is really looking to be a doozy. For those of you that remember the pre-Quadme days, the grindy days, the grind fest that was Conquest, it's looking like like winter is coming. And we are not going to have sunshine and rainbows anymore. This is definitely a departure from the Conquests that we've seen in the last couple of months, if not the last year. But we'll talk about that after the break. We've got SM-33, SME for short, from Skeleton Crew. For those of you that have not seen it, I liked it. I know some people didn't feel the vibe. They weren't into the whole Goonies kid thing. I enjoyed it. It was a nice departure from what Star Wars has become and trying to shoehorn all of these characters into the same narrative arc. So I enjoyed being able to sit down and watch something that was maybe a little bit more self-contained. With that said, we're not here to review Skeleton Crew. I am here to get you through, or I really should say to get me through Conquest and give you some options. We'll talk about it right after the break. Stay with me. So we have SM-33 already in the game. I don't think we actually even got an official kit reveal for him. I don't know if CG has really figured out the cadence on their news cycle with the new Eras system, but he is here. We can read the kit. That's not what our purpose is for tonight. The important thing is that he is part of the pirate faction, which is just kind of started up, and we have a few characters in there that are already in game. This is the next era to come to the game, so we'll kind of see that after these next two clones, after the two Jedis, after badass motherfucker Mace Windu. Interesting note. He is a Territory Wars character, which means I'm probably going to throw him at G12 and let him sit on my bench for a very long time, at least until we see what these other pirates can do, at least until we find out what the catch is, or what the journey character is, or the event is, or whatever CG is going to throw at us with these pirates. With all of that said, I'm trying to stall as much as possible because I'm not happy about this Conquest at all, and our expectations and our battle expectations. But I guess it is time to get started with Conquest Volume 19. So Conquest Volume 19 is a little bit of a departure from what we've seen recently. Typically, since the Quadme Conquest cycle, I have been able to complete my Conquest in about 5.5 to 6 days, and simming for the next week, which has been really nice to push super hard for a week and then kind of take the next week off just Datacron farming and hitting the sim button. What we're seeing with this Conquest as it comes up is that that's unlikely to be the case. I'm expecting that it is probably going to take me 8 to 9 days to finish this Conquest, not because I think any of the specific feats are difficult, but because there are a lot more sector feats that require you to actually win battles with hyper-specific teams, so that you aren't going to be able to perfect as many sectors. As an example, just here in Sector 1, we are going to need to win 20 battles with Spectres, but we're also going to have to defeat 50 enemies with Clone Troopers. Right now, technically, we could defeat 50 enemies with Clone Troopers in one battle. That technically is possible. It is incredibly unlikely, which means we are going to be using 20 of our battles, or the entire sector for the most part, just on Spectre, and then having to go back and do other things. Another egregious one here would be Sector 3, having to win 14 battles with no attackers at all, and then another 15 battles with Darth Vader, who happens to be an attacker, while also doing 400 stacks of target practice. which is a Bad Batch Omega thing, right? So we're looking at a lot of battles that are going to be done on the back end. And the way that I'm going to solve this is basically just try to get through this, the sectors as much as possible, try to get the battle feats as much as I can, but really to focus on the feats that require some degree of thought. So things like the evasion up or the secret intel, the buffs, the debuffs. That way, during my second week of Conquest, instead of hitting sim and enjoying life, I'll just have to hit the auto button and pray, right? It's not terrible, but I'm not super happy about it. With that, let's just get started, right? Let's get going. We'll start with our global feats. 250 enemies defeated on the challenge path. This is the give me. This is the one that they do every single time. It's an easy 15 burritos. Win 20 battles with Bad Batch. Attempt to inflict stagger 80 times. Not bad at all. We actually had inflict stagger 300 times in a single sector before, which was a little painful, but cheesable. Attempt to inflict 300 damage over time, which does seem daunting, but it really isn't. There's so much damage over time, especially with Darth Vader being in Sector 3. Win 20 battles with light side unaligned force users and calling 60 assists with booming voice once you've unlocked it. And attempting to inflict critical damage down 80 times. Overall, not terribly bad. Now, one thing we want to be careful of is win 20 battles with Bad Batch. Bad Batch doesn't tend to do super great outside of Sector 1 or outside of very hyper-specific data disks / against specific teams. So we want to use them as much as we possibly can whenever we get the chance so that I don't have to deal with them too terribly much on the back end. Win 20 battles with light side unaligned force users is not as bad. I'm not as nervous about that one. Especially with having Rey, so we'll make it work. Sector 1 feats don't look too bad. Gain evasion up 50 times, defeat 50 enemies with clone troopers, gain secret intel 80 times, and win 20 battles with only specters. Now, just a quick note before we get in, I asked Moonborn to do a 6th graphic for this, and that 6th graphic is a survival graphic. We're gonna kind of gloss over the win with X, Y, or Z surviving. We'll talk about that more at the end. The other thing that we want to keep in mind here is we do not know the data disks. It could be defensive, it could be offensive, it could be a mix of the two. That can completely change strategies. Things like Amplify Agony really elevate characters like Lord Vader for a lot of survival feats. Things like Voluntary Vanguard really elevate JML to the point where you won't have to use Watt with him. So those are just things that we want to have in the back of our head going into next Monday. But with that said, this is where I'm going to get things going. I'm going to start with my OG Bad Batch team. I do have them mostly relicked. I don't think Omega is. I believe she's still G12. That's going to get me my clone trooper kills. It's going to get me evasion up because that is a Bad Batch core skill, and I'm going to get some of my win with Bad Batch. I want to try to do that on the earlier end because I'm going to be using Bad Batch characters a lot through the sectors. I tend to do my Conquest at 5:45 to 6 in the morning. Ignore it for the rest of the day, wake up 5:45, 6 in the morning the next day, and get it done with a day's worth of refreshes. So I want to try to get, as many battles as I can in right away, especially on that first day, because that's a midday start at 2 p.m. For Spectre wins, I'm actually going to throw General Syndulla in the lead spot, and that's because of her interaction with Dots on her leadership. Now, I have Ahsoka, I have Hezra, right? You could throw Ahsoka in the lead spot, but it's going to make it harder to get those dots. I don't actually think prioritizing dots is gonna be that big of a deal, especially with having to use Darth Vader so much later on. But if I can throw her in Sector 1, I might as well do it. That's gonna get me my Spectre wins. Ezra's basic is gonna give me stagger, and I'm gonna get those dots from General Syndulla lead. If you don't have Ahsoka or you don't have Hezra, we do have Fulcrum and we do have Chopper that we can throw in there. It shouldn't be too terribly big of a problem, especially in Sector 1, but keep in mind it is something you can come back to after you've built out your loadout for your data disks. I'm also going to be throwing in Rey with BB-8, Captain Rex, Kira, and Zalbar, right? And that's going to get me secret intel pretty quickly, clone trooper kills with Rex if I still need them, dots with Zalbar's basic, and stagger with Kira. Now, the interesting thing with Rey is that she basically works with any light side character, so there is a lot of options down here on the side if you're hurting for any of the other options. Han Solo is going to give you evasion up on an AoE, Bam has dots on basic, you could throw literally any clone in there to get clone kills, or even 2 or 3 clones if you want to throw like Rex in there and ramp up his aerial assault. Resistance hero Poe has stagger and dots, Sabine has AoE stagger, and if you throw Mission in with Zalbar, they're going to just keep going on and on and on with dots. She's just a super, super versatile character for Conquest. She's not somebody that I use too terribly often because the offense output is not as high as I would like, but she is great for farming feats, buff and debuff feats. Now, some other options that we have, you can do our clone trooper kills and evasion up with 501st. We just kind of throw Bad Batch Echo in there for evasion ups, and you could use a Rex lead or a 5s lead. It doesn't really matter. It's basically your 501st clones. We can also use JML, which is a staple of any Conquest. Luminara with Vet Han for staggers, calling him to assist on a debuffed enemy. His basic will attack twice, and the second one will stagger. Throw in 2 random-ass Jedis. Hermit Yoda is someone who I like to use. Jedi Knight Luke I like to use because of the stun to kind of slow down and build up the battle. You can basically stall a very long time with this team, especially against a Phoenix node if you really want to get those staggers out of the way right away. But I am telling you that you are going to get through them relatively quickly, believe it or not. Moving on to Sector 2. We've got gain health steal up 50 times, win 10 battles with 3 DS clone troopers, gain stealth 60 times, and win 20 battles without losing any units. Now, our goal is obviously always to win battles without losing units, so we're really not going to spend too much time talking about that. Any strong team should be able to do that. We shouldn't have a problem not losing units. It's not something that we have to rig to worry about. Important to note, I do understand that most people do not have the 3 DS clones at high levels. Obviously, you can only have 2 at relics right now. This may be particularly egregious because Disguised Clone Trooper quite literally will be just finishing their marquee event as Conquest starts up. I think this is a first for CG to do something like this. Now, the nice thing is that they don't have to survive, you just have to win 10 battles with them. I happen to have Oppo and CX2 at Relic 9, not because I'm insane, but because some of you very lovely, generous people are insane and begged me and sent me stuff so that I could do that. And I thank you seriously from the bottom of my heart because I did not expect to have any clones at all for a very long time. So I will just be throwing those guys in with Lord Vader, but I do want to keep and be cognizant of those of you that don't have it. So first and foremost, I am going to do my Papa Palp Star Killer team, right, with Visa Mar and Shakti for health steal up from Papa Palp and Visa's special. I'm going to win without losing units, obviously, hopefully. Stealth MJ and Shock T are both going to give me stealth, and I'm going to get staggers from Mara Jade's special. And like I said earlier on, we're going to be getting a lot of staggers, and we really shouldn't have to worry about these 80. I'm going to try to throw Ray in there as well, depending on where her stamina lies, with Baby Cal, with Cat. Basically any of my strong light side Ufus, other than Cat because she's quick to kill things, and Baby Cal because he has health steal up on basic based on his amount of health. There isn't too much other light side Ufus are going to give you for sector feats, so just throw your strongest in there. We want to try to get some of those light side unaligned force user wins in on this sector. For stealth, I'm going to throw my Bad Batch as well in whenever possible, even if it's 1 or 2 battles, because I want to get the stealth from them always passing it around between each other, and to get Bad Batch wins, which we're going to try to spread out as much as possible. I really want this to happen in the early part of the sector, because I'm going to need a Bad Batch for target practice in Sector 3. So if I see options in the late sector, unless I'm already at like 90% stamina, I am going to pass on this. For win with dark side clones, again, because you don't need them to survive, something like Lord Vader lead, Third Sister lead, SLKR lead, those are great, particularly great options depending on what you're going against. The tough thing here is the fact that because it's 3 characters that need to survive, it is really hard to put an offensive backing behind them. Now, if Amplify Agony exists, Third Sister lead is going to make such short work of this, it's going to be silly. It's going to take 3 seconds. I could see JML and Jedi Knight Luke working here potentially, if we're going against very, very, very specific nodes, but I'm not holding out very high hope, and I want to reserve judgment until we see what's going on with the data disks. Some other options that we have for this sector, we could throw in C, Bane, and some Sith Empire for health steal up, stagger, and critical damage down from Bastilla, which is something that we're going to need for the global feats, and is something that isn't passed around by very many characters. So Bastilla is going to be one of our the forefronts of us being able to get critical damage down without pushing outside of what we want to get done overall. We could throw in JMK, Cat, and R2-D2 for stealth. You could probably get this done in 1 or 2 battles, quite honestly, especially if you find like a Phoenix team and you stall out really hard after killing Sabine Wren, giving the damage immunity constantly to R2-D2 to refresh his AoE stun. I could see that being done very quick if the other options don't work for you. But we also have Darth Maul as an option. Throwing in Darth Maul, some Sith Empire, Bane, Darth Maul's lead, anytime they evade, anytime they get crit, everybody gets stealth. He passes around stealth like a $10 whore. And we'll still get that same health steal up from Bane's special, and stagger and crit damage down from Badstilla. Moving on to Sector 3. This one's a little bit more self-explanatory. We have gain defense up 60 times, win 15 battles with Darth Vader surviving, gain 400 stacks of target practice, which does seem daunting. However, I have a feeling that multiple content creators, probably Bit Dynasty, almost definitely Bit Dynasty, is going to come up with a way to get this all done in one battle. And once you read Fugitive Omega's kit, you're going to see it's not actually as bad as it sounds, as long as you have built up your old Bad Batch. And win 14 battles with no attackers. So to start this off, I'm going to use Fugitive Omega in my lead slot. Mine is not relicked. She might be relicked in time for Conquest. I'm not counting on it. I don't really think it matters, but with her lead, essentially, if Bad Batch characters attack the same character over and over again, everybody gets stacks of target practice. So throw her in there with your old Bad Batch and watch those stacks go up and up and up and up. I don't think it's going to be very hard. I'm going to lean very heavily into my Jedi Master Luke here. Jedi Master Luke, Hermit Yoda, Grandmaster Yoda, Old Ben, and then a defense up on basic characters. So Plo Koon, Poplo, or Tarful. I'm 99% sure that none of those are attackers. I think 2 out of the 3 are tanks, and Poplo is a support, if I remember correctly. That's going to give me tons of defense up, including from Old Ben's AoE, and honestly from Grandmaster Yoda spreading that stuff around like the plague, and my no attackers feat. For Darth Vader surviving, this one for a survival feat is actually not going to be that tough, just specifically because this is a very common character to have at high relics. We could throw literally any Sith lead in here, throw Badstilla in there. Darth Vader is going to give a ton of dots. Put Darth Vader in the lead slot if you want to really ramp up the amount of dots that are being passed around, and you'll get your stagger as well as your critical damage down from Badstilla. If your Darth Vader is hurting, isn't that great, we can talk about that when we get to our survival slide down the road. And then we have the other option for defense up is Clone Wars Chewie, his leadership ability. Anytime anyone on the team gets hit, they have a chance of getting defense up. So you really just throw him in with your strongest Galactic Republic characters, or really your strongest anybody characters, and just let the team die once, and you'll get that in one battle. You want to put it against a team that is going to have weaker attacks, though, just so that things don't die super quickly. So, like, Geos are a great option as they all mass attack your entire team. If you happen to have JMK, throwing him and a whole Galactic Republic squad in under Clone Wars Chewie and kind of auto-basicking for a while, you can probably make it out with the win if you really wanted to. Clone Wars Chewie is a tank, so, I mean, you could try to put together a team of just supports and tanks there. I think it'll be tough to get that win that way, but YOLO, right? It's one battle either way. But moving into my favorite sector, and you will see why in just a second, Sector 4 is where my Fungans are really going to shine, right? We have attempt to inflict tenacity down 50 times, inflict death mark 10 times, win 15 battles with Batcher surviving, we'll talk about that more on the back end, and gain a bonus turn 50 times. Now, if, like me, you happened to invest in your Gungans, Jar Jar's basic can apply death mark. It's a 1 in 3 chance. Jar Jar and the shield generator both generate bonus turns for each other and for the team. And Phalanx has tenacity down. So basically this team is going to do all of the work for this sector, and it's going to be really, really nice. It'll be super awesome if I can get it done in like the 3 or 4 battles before they're low on stamina. That remains to be seen though. Some other options you have, Jedi Master Luke with Jedi Knight Luke and Jedi Knight Cal Kestis. You could throw Batcher in there. If Voluntary Vanguard exists, Batcher and a tenacity down on basic character like BB-8 and Chewbacca. If Voluntary Vanguard does not exist, you can throw in Watt and Tank Tech JML to make sure all hits go to JML. But regardless of how you do it, you'll get bonus turns from Jedi Cal, Batcher surviving, and tenacity down from that 5th tenacity down on basic character. The other major option here is Death Mark from Darth Revan's lead, bonus turns from Darth Vader's Merciless Massacre, which is basically a mainstay for a lot of players, stagger from Bastilla, and just kind of a Darth Revan, Sith Empire plus Vader team, right? Throwing Malgus and Malik in there, who we weren't using before. That's going to probably be the big option for most people who have not invested in their Gungans, because there are not a lot of options for Deathmark that are overly reliable on common teams. Some other options for those of you that maybe don't have some of these things: a CLS team, Tenacity Down, you'll get from Chewbacca. You could throw Leia Rebels or just Phoenix Rebels with Captain Rex. Captain Rex also has Tenacity Down. And honestly, Oppo gives Deathmark if his clone summon dies. So if you really absolutely need to cheese this, you probably can throw Oppo in there to get the clone summon to summon with crappy Empire characters and Lord Vader, right? It's a very specific team. It's got to be Lord Vader, the 3 clones, and Tarkin. So it's only going to work for some people. But even if they're low gear, because the stats scale specifically to the summoner, it might be beneficial for those players. The summon dies, Oppo gives Deathmark, you get something. But like I said, I do think that Darth Revan is going to be the major option for most players. And moving into the last sector, well, let's go over the sector feats first. We have attempt to inflict evasion down 60 times, inflict marked 25 times, inflict order 66 10 times, and win 10 battles with only Empire. We're going to hold off on the order 66 thing for a minute. Attempt to inflict evasion down should be super easy for most people. Inflict mark is interesting because in the past it's actually said inflict marked on enemies. But even during those conquests, it worked when you marked your own team. This time it only says inflict marked. So the assumption is that marking your own team should work just fine. If it doesn't, Revan is going to be your major option. If it does, you have some other options between Piet, between General Grievous. Okay, so my team compositions: JML, Jedi Knight Revan, Jedi Knight Luke, Dash Rendar, and an evasion down on basic character, right? Chupio, Old Ben, Bodhi Rook. I'm going to get marked from Jedi Knight Revan, evasion down from that 5th character, and crit damage down from Dash's AoE. I was talking to somebody about this today. Revan is not a terrible option for marked, specifically because he does have a turn meter pass that allows him to get turns more frequently, and JML does refresh turns when he goes into ult. So even without hardcore stalling, you can get 5 or 6 of these done pretty quickly and pretty easily and get this knocked out of the way. Some other options that we have, again, we're going to talk about Order 66 in a minute. GI for Empire wins, right? Grand Inquisitor, you throw in that team. Throw in Third Sister if you have the full Inquisitor team. Your CLS team is going to give you an evasion down, and General Grievous team is really great for marked because if he is under 100% health, he will mark characters on his own team every turn that happens. So that's a very quick way to get it. But now, Order 66. We got some bad news. In order to gain Order 66, Oppo needs to be under a Lord Vader lead, right? Has to be. Disguised Clone Trooper needs all clones, Lord Vader, or Tarkin lineup. That's just the way that it is right now. And then CX2's unique is the only reliable way to get Order 66 without having a lot of the newer things. So for somebody like me who has Lord Vader and even has low-end clones, you might not have a problem getting Order 66. Somebody who is in the early to mid-game, this might be one that at first glance you're like, oh man, I need to skip this. But looking at it, I think that there actually is an option if we abuse CX2's kit and the way that his kit works. Essentially, I actually have him on my phone here right now. I'm not gonna pull it up because I don't have the game up on my computer anymore. But in order to gain Order 66, blah, blah, blah. Whenever CX2 uses an ability against the same targeted enemy 3 times in a row, inflict Order 66 on that enemy for 2 turns. That's something that I think people in the early game are going to want to abuse. And with that, I've come up with a team that I think will maybe work. Okay, so something like JML or Ahsoka or Leia as your lead because they're tanks. Throw Watt in there for his tank tech. Throw CX2 in there for obvious reasons. Fives has a targeted call. And Cody has an assist as well, targeted towards clones. So using those 3 characters, I do think that it is going to be very, very, very possible for players who only have them at marquee levels to find lower end teams to maybe get 2 or 3 Order 66s per battle, right? This is a first for everybody. So will it work? I honestly, I don't know. We'll be on Discord. We have our Conquest channel on Discord. So, you know, guys like Kazgul, guys like myself, some of the other smarter Conquest players will be talking about it quite a lot once Conquest is started. But that is my idea team for players that are maybe struggling with not having a good Empire squad. Now, my go-to Empire squad is going to be Lord Vader, Piet, Royal Guard, Ninth Sister, and Thrawn. And that is excluding all of those clones specifically because I made some of these team comps before I found out I was going to be able to get some of the clones, and I wanted to keep this in mind for players who maybe would not have that as an option. Some other options that you may have, obviously, are just in an Imperial Troopers squad. I don't think all of the Imperial Remnant are Empire, but I do believe the Iden squad is as well. So for some of you that have those squads up and running against something like a Bad Batch node that once again does not have any overpowered, shouldn't be too much of a problem. With all of that said, let's talk survival. Right? Ooh, look at this. I guess my survival slide is not on there. Huh, let's fix that. We need to fix a bug, cause add files to that. 2, 3, 4, 5, and there we go. Survival. I don't know why that happened, but there we go. So talking about survival feats, this is kind of important to keep in mind how data disk dependent this is. How to get weak feat characters to survive. Does voluntary vanguard exist? A lot of your characters, a lot of your GLs will work. You know, JMK, JML, Lord Vader, Leia, Sith Empire. You throw voluntary vanguard on, you throw it against teams that have limited AoE. Your strong tank will eat up pretty much all of the damage. Does Amplify Agony exist? Your Reva lead with Grand Inquisitor, your Lord Vader lead, your Sith Empire team. These are all super heavy debuff teams that are going to delete enemy teams super, super quickly with just a 5th character, a random 5th character in there. Are we looking at fully defensive data disks? You have like Fortified, you have things like Ruthless Swiftness. You can still use JML, you can still use Leia, you can still use Ahsoka. You're just going to have to throw Watt in there as well to be able to put the tank tech on. Bam, Han, and Chewie also works really really great because of the turn meter abuse that happens with Bam's leadership. Your Sith Empire team will generally still work here. And I have heard a lot of people say that SLKR works wonders for this kind of thing. I just personally haven't had the success with it in the past. With all of that said, I am pumped for this pirate-themed conquest, other than the fact that I do believe our battle numbers are going to see a very, very steep increase. I'm hoping that's not the case, but man, I gotta tell you, I'm expecting it. I am excited for the character. I do think it's silly. I do love when new factions come to the game. If you do need help with Conquest, hit us up on Discord. It kills me. I say this every time. It kills me when on day 13 of Conquest, somebody pops into our chat and says, oh, hey, man, I'm 19 data disks, 19 burritos off from getting the red crate, and I need these 3 things. And we find them a way that they could have done it. But they only have 24 hours and they don't want to spend any crystals in order to do stims and different things. So pop in early, chat with us. We got a friendly community. We will all be there to help. I hope to see everybody get their red crates, and peace out.